Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. And here we have Maya on Reanimator versus me on Goblins. I'm actually taking this Unsettled Mariner build out for a stroll. We had an odd number of players, only had, I want to say 11 or 13 at this tournament. So those smaller events, I'll generally hop on in if the store isn't too busy, just to make sure that we do not have a buy. And Maya with a turn 1 Faithless Looting, discarding 2 non-business cards, including an Unmask. Goblins, a pretty soft matchup for Reanimator. Entomb being fired off here, 1 mana still open, so worst case scenario we're looking at a Griselbrand reanimated here, and that would be quite a terrible scenario for Goblins, especially in game number 1. Now the deck does have access to Karakas. Griselbrand coming back down to 11, but that 9 life really just an investment. It will be coming back. And now an Unmask post Griselbrand. But before drawing is an interesting decision. I'm trying to think of reasons to do it in that sequence. Perhaps making sure that it is safe to actually draw the cards with Griselbrand. So gaining 7, paying 7. Faithless Looting. Very often Reanimator players will draw 7 there, immediately look to get more discard effects like Unmask, Lotus Petals, Duresses, Thought Seizes. I suppose with Duress not really being a viable option in this matchup, that's also a factor. And now Cabal Therapy, putting in a Mog Fanatic. Matron gets taken. Matron would have been able to grab a Sting Scourger of some sort. Oh no, but Exhuming, that doesn't really help out too much. That's going to bring back the Matron. Or if there's something better in the graveyard, I don't recall what the other discard spell took. May have been the second Matron. So Sting Scourger can be found here. That's something. Assuming it's main deck. Oh, it doesn't look like it is main deck. Don't know what the best thing to get here, but I mean it's something. It'll be something good. So yeah, it was actually a Matron already in the graveyard. So Chancellor of the Annex coming in, and that is 12 damage. So Chancellor might be able to be taken down here by a Munitions Expert. $11 life. So this fetch land cannot be sacked and take a hit. Oh, and Thoughtseize, that's just brutal. So it looked like there may have been a bit of an opening. Matron goes, gets the best card in the deck. Thoughtseize strips it from the hand. And now Pashalik Mons with 2 mana and 2 counters on Vial. Looks like this is pretty much it. Can swing with Lackey and Matron and have one of them just killed. Down to just 1 life, ticking up to 3. And fetching down to 0. Moving on to game number 2. Reanimator, a very heavy favorite in game number 1. We'll see if this Goblin build has enough cards in the sideboard. Point of contention here. It's actually got 3 Leyline of the Voids. I am personally not a fan of that. I think that Leyline of the Void is the type of card that is just so much better when you're running 4 copies Then the 3, it's not really castable. You really need it in your opening hand. Otherwise, I feel that you are setting yourself up for some sabotaged draw steps later on, kind of taking and maximizing the risk without maximizing the reward. And Reanimator, such a fast deck. I don't think that Relic of Progenitus, I mean, obviously it's coming in, but there's going to be many games that you lose where you open and have a Relic in hand, either on the play or the draw, and simply have it do legit nothing for the matchup. Reanimator capable of getting a turn 1 Gristlebrand so often. Caracas, also an incredibly strong card. And Leyline and Caracas both are not impacted by cards like Unmask, which makes them particularly strong. There's just so many ways for Reanimator to interact with your hand. Unmask, Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy. And it doesn't hit any of those, as Leyline comes down as a pre-game effect, and of course, Caracas is a land and immune to almost all discard spells. Hymn to Torok, one of the few cards that can actually randomly hit it. Encroach, a card that not likely to see play in Legacy. It was a little bit of a card for a while in Vintage, at the height of Dredge's popularity in the Gush era. Some people, Brassman, Team Short Bus, ran that card to great effect. Well, that's an exaggeration. They ran it, and they had some anecdotal success with it. It was able to hit Bazaar of Baghdad's and Mishra's Workshops in that opener, which is a devastating thing to do. Very often, there's one good reason for them to have kept the hand, and when you strip that out, it's a disaster. So back to this game, however, Goblins leading out with a Relic of Progenitus. Will it be fast enough? A fetch land really can mess with that. And a Chalice at 0 as well. So looking to just slow things down as much as possible. Lotus Petal, a real problem. Though not clear if Reanimator would even be taking out some number of Lotus Petals. It depends on what they've got to bring in. They are plenty fast enough, and very often are going to want some answers to cards like Relic or Leyline of the Void. Depending on the color combinations here post-board, we might see cards like Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy. This might just be a straight black-red build, which would make it very soft to actual onboard hate. So we will discover exactly how Maya plans to deal with that. The other possibilities are blue. Oh, and I think that's a Reverent Silence going into the graveyard. Thalia now. And things looking pretty good for Goblins, despite being bereft of Goblins. Thalia and the Relic, both, very good. Slowing things down. Rashad and Port, potentially a real issue. There's the Leyline of the Void being drawn for turn. An absolute ham sandwich in the grip. Especially with Thalia, you're going to get to 5 mana, 2 of which are black. That is a long ways to go. Goblin Lackey now looking to put some pressure on. And this Relic every turn can be tapping to exile cards. Matron with some decisions to make. There's 3 mana available. There's a Rashad and Port and a Relic of Progenitus to consider here. You really need to keep the 1 mana open for Relic. And it is a question of whether or not to keep tapping with that Rashad and Port. And Matron actually just grabbing another Matron, keeping the options open to see how this develops. Four goes to 5. Don't actually like that line. I think Ringleader probably would have been much better. And now 3 mana for a Wear Tear. That's going to exile and draw a card. Fetching. Gonna be able to grab black mana here, but still a long ways away from casting that Leyline of the Void. Rashad and Port tapping down. Wear Tear, the soul card in the graveyard. Reanimator going to need to do some building here. Value really restricting the mana as well. Just a land and passing. And now 4 damage coming in, down to 9. Matron entering the battlefield. And now likely going to grab, let's see, either Slingang Lieutenant or Sting Scourger. Both of those possibilities. And Slingang Lieutenant, that is being cast. So 7 points of life drain are possible here. Elish Norn being grabbed. And Exhume, I don't think will do it here. So in response to Exhume, can sacrifice the Slingang Lieutenant, let it go to the graveyard. Nope, that thinking doesn't work. The Elish Norn will actually murk everything as a state-based effect, so there'll be no chance to sacrifice post Exhume. So Reanimate not a possibility though. So Unmask grabs the Goblin Lackey. Oh, and then scooping it up, so no Reanimate spell available. So no Reanimate spell available there for Maya. So Goblins squaring it up, 1 a game apiece. Interesting there that Sting Scourger would have just been taken from hand. So was Reanimate? I think Elish Norn could have been reanimated if it wasn't for that Slingang Lieutenant. So a very interesting way that game played out. Just a game of inches there. Not clear that I played that correctly at all, but it may have just lined up properly. A very interesting game. Goblins pretty much always going to be the underdog here. And just 3 ley lines. That was the main talking point with Mark after this tournament. I actually set up a spreadsheet to break down the probabilities of getting a ley line if you are mulling to it. It is pretty significant difference. You're going to miss, I believe it's like 2.5 times more. Like if you play 100 games, you'll miss like 3 versus like 9. Don't quote me on those percentages. Just trying to illustrate. Oh, and here, keeping on 7, Unmask, pitching Thoughtseize, and Thalia being taken, Unmask herself, leaving Exhume. Fetching a basic swamp and now reanimating a turn 1 Gristlebrand. Just a devastating play. Leyline really the only card that would have stopped this disaster from happening. Keeping this 7, definitely an error, despite there only being 3 ley lines. Looks like it would have been correct to try and draw towards it. Now this had a Chalice at 1 and 0 available to it. 0, not really a big deal in this matchup. It is not Storm. And this may just be academic from here. Honestly, with a hand this soft, Maya probably could have won just unmasking that Krenko and reanimating it. Krenko probably would have gotten there just as easily as this Gristlebrand. And that actually, wow, now that I'm saying that, Leyline would not have stopped that line, so wouldn't that have been a blowout? Maya had the ability potentially to unmask on turn 1, reanimate a Krenko, and just create a massive Goblin army. So even with Leyline, I believe this would have been a lost game, which does pull things a little bit toward Mark's point here. Mark, the Goblin King, has been working hard on this deck, and so far is fine with 3 instead of 4 Leylines. And you know, just feels like the matchup is just so bad that you just really don't want to dedicate too much sideboard hate for it, as it's just not ever going to be a good matchup. So very interesting there. I can only imagine how quickly that would have gotten out of hand. Krenko within a few turns would have been tapping for 8 or more Goblins. And now a Chalice at 1. Gonna try and stop Maya doing anything too broken from here on out, which is not really gonna matter. And there we go. The hand extended Reanimator absolutely squashing Goblins. But it did take 3. That is all for this one. But don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.